recording.
Okay.
All
Wow.
right, so
Well,
so
you want to introduce
introductions.
yourself?
I'm Sam,
And I'm Mason.
and you know a show's good when you hear like and company.
It's so weird because we like joshed around with that on Twitter, but like I wasn't sure if we were gonna do it. Okay.
I sure was.
Okay.
Don't challenge me to a dare.
So, Sam and I have been watching a bunch of Boys Loves the past few months together. We watched quite a few towards the end of last year, and then we've been binging a lot of the current ones too. And I see before we even signed on, your picture on here was of Bright and Win. So I was like, I see together. Clocked.
I love Boys Love. I do. And I think that it's really cool that you and I are talking about it together because I'm coming from the perspective of a mostly straight woman and you're coming from this perspective of a gay male. And so some of the things that get talked about in the Boys Love community come from more my perspective a lot of the time. So it's really nice to be able to talk about this with you and you can educate me and I can be entertained.
Well, I hope I can educate you. You always are educating me on random shit too. So
So today we're going to be talking about End of Love Tossara. And Mason, I'm going to let you give a little bit of background about End of Love. Not a bunch because I don't think either one of us really know that much about it, but you kind of know what we're going to discuss today.
So, End of Love Tossara, it's a new show produced by Studio Wabi Sabi, who did Love by Chance and Until We Meet Again. Those are like their two big ones that they've done. I don't know if they did ones before then, but I believe those are their two most recent and two biggest shows that they've done. And this is kind of, so it's split up into 3 sections. So the first 4 episodes are Tossara, which are Gun and Bar. Those 2 characters, and then the next 4 episodes are another 2 characters who were, and then the next 4 episodes are another few characters, but they all like intermix throughout each of them. But we're going to talk about just the first 4 episodes, Tossara, because this might be the worst Boys Love either of us have ever seen. I mean, team photo for sure. Team photo for sure.
Okay, so I am subscribed to the Studio Wabi Sabi channel, and that's how Tossara ended up in my feed. I had seen the previews for Tossara before the show aired because when Tharn Type was coming to an end, I was watching a lot of videos about like, here are the upcoming Boys Loves for 2020. And so like, I was really excited to see My Engineer. I was really excited to see Why Are You? I was excited to see Together. And End of Love was there, but at the time that I saw the preview, I thought it was a regular 12 episode series. I didn't realize it was going to be 444. And so when it came up on my timeline, at first I didn't recognize it because it was called Tossara instead of End of Love. Secondly, I was shocked that it was 4 episodes. I'm like, okay, can knock this out really quick. And then I was also really surprised that no one was talking about it because Studio Wabi Sabi is like the premier Boys Love studio. It's either GMM TV or it's Studio Wabi Sabi. So why was no one talking about this? And before we went on live today, I went to the Facebook page for Studio Wabi Sabi and they're not advertising this series there.
Damn.
I know. Shady.
Maybe they know. Like they got the footage back and they were like, you know what? We sunk the money, but we'll let this one die on its own.
I guess so. But End of Love is the first of a 3-part series, like Mason said. The 2 main characters are Gun Tosakan and Bar Sarawat, which is why the show is called Tossara, because the first part of Tossara are Tosakan, and then the first part of Sarawat, Tossara. So that's where the name comes from. But the first 4 episodes with Tossara, those are the main couple, but the second series, which is Love Mechanics, is
Mhm.
Mark, who was the guy who wanted to date Bar, but Bar
Right.
turned him down, and one of the friends of Bar. Then the third fourth episode arc is going to be the little brother of Gunn and then one of the friends of Bar, which is going to be weird because the little brother's a high school student because if you recall, Gunn is a freshman.
Yeah, he's like
And then,
18. So
yeah,
how old is his
and
little
then
brother?
right. So his little brother who's a high school student and then one of the senior engineering students because it's a friend of Bar.
Yeah, they're junior. Are they juniors or seniors?
I think they're seniors.
Okay, so there's a very questionable age gap there.
Yes. So when that comes up, we'll have to talk about that a little bit more. And also just talk about age and boys love. Honestly, that's a whole nother conversation.
That's
But
true.
yeah, that's kind of how they're all related because that's how all the books are written that they're based
Hmm.
off.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you, in order to get this conversation started, what do you think is the standout reason why Tossara is one of the worst boys loves ever made?
I think it might be because the books might be bad. And the reason I say that is I feel like I don't know because I haven't read the books for Love by Chance or Until We Meet Again, but I remember people saying that they were pretty faithful in adaptation. So I think Studio Wabi Sabi has a hard time adapting things for a TV media because books and TV are just a different medium and you have to treat them as such. And like sometimes 100% faithful adaptation isn't the way to go. And I think the books might just be bad. And I think Studio Wabi Sabi just like sunk money into this bad book series and they didn't change anything.
Mm.
I mean, I think that's just the base, but I mean, the acting is so bad, but also the writing feels bad and it's choppy. I like it, everything is bad. I think it started with a bad foundation of just like the books are bad, so then they wrote a bad show.
Okay. I think you hit it on the nose for me with the acting. Definitely that to me is the standout bad thing about this show because I mean, we've watched shows that had pretty bad plots, but the acting was decent and it carried you through. Like we're going
Right.
to end up reviewing Red Wine in the Dark Knight. I know we're going to do that.
We need to have
And
some wine before we do that one.
yes,
Before I
we'll
watch that
definitely
one
have to
again, we need to be drinking.
yes. We need to be drinking red wine to talk about Red Wine in the Dark Knight. But that's a movie where the plot is shit. The writing is terrible. But Fluke does his utmost to make it watchable.
Oh yeah, he is carrying that movie on his back.
Yeah, and so I think when you have a plot, most boys' loves tend to be very tropey and
Mhm.
kind of storylines you've seen before, resolutions you've
Mhm.
seen before. You can kind of have a weak storyline, but the actors can bypass a lot of that weak storyline. I mean, let's be honest, there's a lot of non-con in boys' love that people forgive because of the acting.
Right.
So I feel like the fact that they came at this project with all brand new actors, because I looked on everybody's My Drama list, none of them have been in anything before. They came at this with all brand new actors, one of whom I swear like they must have pulled him off the street 5 minutes before they filmed. And I think if you have somebody who's not got that chemistry, has got that charisma on
Mhm.
screen, and then you give them a script that doesn't have a lot of meat to it, you're setting yourself up for disaster.
Right.
Yeah.
It's bad. And I think like man, I think the actor who plays Gunn, because he's by far the worst actor, he's the one that definitely was picked up off the street. It seems like he's either reading cue cards or they're like feeding him lines through an earpiece and he's just repeating them verbatim.
Yeah.
Like, it's
So
bad.
when we were talking before we decided to film this, you were telling me about his voiceovers for text messages. And so I went back and I watched a couple of segments of the show. No, it wasn't text messages. It was voiceovers for phone calls. So there are scenes in the show where Bar gets a phone call from Gunn, and you can hear Gunn's voice. And obviously, it's read in a studio because the audio is like super crystal clear and just it doesn't have that feedbacky sound that a phone call has.
Hmm.
The way he reads his lines for these phone calls, as I was listening to him, like, is he auditioning to be like a Quiet Storm DJ? Because the way he was reading it was like, I brought you flowers. Aren't you impressed by me? I'm like, Who talks like that?
No one. No one. The speech he gives in episode 3, it sends me over the edge. Oh, it's so bad.
Okay, so I'm going to set up the scene that Mason is talking about, and then Mason, I will let you elaborate on everything that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and I watched the show just to freshen up for this chat. And in episode 2, he tells Bar that he's in the Freshie Games and that he's been practicing for the Freshie Day competition, and that's why he can't be around to date Bar more actively. The Freshie Day competition comes up. They're on a stage. All the different departments have a boy and a girl that they decide to nominate for like freshman of the year. He's nominated for the medical department, and they have a segment where they do kind of a Q&A. So they'll ask a contestant a question. They'll have like maybe 15 seconds to answer the question, maybe even 5, because it seems like everybody else did it in 5. Then it is Gun's turn to answer the question. And Mason, I will let you tell them about the studio magic that happens after that.
So I forgot what question they asked him, but he basically launches into like this monologue about love and the person he likes and how I asked out this boy once and he rejected me, but I hope today he accepts me. And you know, love is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. It's just like, it is like I mean, I think it's a solid 7 minutes of him. I don't even think I'm exaggerating when it's like a solid 7 minutes of him speaking at you in like he's listening in the earpiece and he's like, okay, yep, this is my next line. This is my next line. All while like the whole time that he's acting in the show, like I would say 70% of the time he has this really doofy, just like grin. Like he never closes his mouth. He just has this dumb grin, like he looks dumb, like he looks like he doesn't know what 2 + 2 is. Dumb. And he's just standing there like, I love you, I want you to be my boyfriend. And it's like, no one gives a shit, move on, you're at a competition. And then like they announce the winner and he loses, so he just stands there like, oh. Oh. And then he makes another 7-minute speech. Another one, basically saying the same thing, you know.
Oh, but crying. You forget he is crying and it's like, I really wanted to win because I was going to ask him out and now I don't think he'll want to date me because I'm a loser.
Yeah, the acting was unclear, so I didn't recognize that it was tears.
I only recognized it as tears because he was not smiling. That was literally the only thing.
They're like, well, it's not happy, so it's gotta be sad. Yeah, he only knows happy and sad.
Yes.
And then the guy that he asked out comes up on stage and also gives a speech, a shorter one, but still, we're in the middle of a competition. You don't need to be giving speeches. And he accepts, and then they hug, and I think that's like kind of the end of the episode almost. It was like part 3 of 4. So
yeah,
like,
I just can't believe that they would do the winner of the competition like that. Could you imagine if you won like a beauty show or whatever, and then like you're supposed to be able to be like, you know, thank you, mom and dad, love you guys. Instead, you got this asshole over here talking for 10 minutes at a time and having a fucking rom-com while you're just sitting there with your flower in your crown like, okay, when is it my turn? I actually won.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the end of episode 3. And then episode 4 was arguably the best part of the entire series.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Episode 4 is where they've kind of confirmed that they are going out. They decided to start dating at the end of episode 3 on stage. They have their intimate moment. And I say that in quotes because I don't know what the hell was going on in that room. It was so damn dark.
Oh my God. So I turned up the brightness on my computer and like angled it so I could see. And they're definitely like their mouths are touching, but I don't think either of them have even seen someone kiss before. They just kind of like put their mouths together and like rotated them. It's like, like what was filming this like? Like they were like, it's like, maybe pull back a bit, slip a tongue in. I don't know, just something. Did y'all prep? We get a weird makeout scene, but that's another thing with the show of it being dark. It's like, it seems like this entire show is filmed with natural light. Like they just never set up lights like you're supposed to, or like restage the lights for each different shot choice that they were using. And so some of the scenes, they'll use like natural lighting. So some angles it looks okay, and then they'll cut to a different angle. And because of the way the light's positioned, it'll be like backlit all of a sudden, and everyone's in shadow. And you're like, this doesn't make any sense. It's weird. Like, no one paid attention to any of the lighting, which drove me crazy. But I went to film school, so this is like stupid, pretentious, me being annoyed at dumb things stuff.
Well, I was annoyed. As somebody watching, I'm like, somebody turn on a fucking nightlight or something. Like, how are we supposed to say anything? The only good thing about that entire makeout scene was the fact that he does ask for consent. And he's like, are you sure? And he asks it more than once, which is cool because, you know, you need to. Even though I still feel like no one in Boys Love has heard of lube. It is just like, I see condoms all the time, but I never see lube. But yeah, they do it. And then afterwards, Dr. Gunn is like totally dickmatized. Like he can't concentrate on schoolwork. He can't do anything except for follow his boyfriend around. And then they have another very valuable conversation about the fact that like, I appreciate that you like me, but this obsessiveness and not taking care of your homework or allowing me to do my work is not going to work in our relationship. And I thought that was really good too. And that's the reason why I say like, I feel the acting is the big kind of down element of all this, because that part specifically, if put in the hands of more capable actors, could have been a very powerful moment for a show. But in the hands of these two, Dr. Gunn is just sitting there like, meanwhile, Barr, who always looks angry, even when he's being nice, always looks angry. He's just, you know, totally like, and I don't like it when you follow me around. And I don't like it when you always answer my phone calls. And I'm going to be graduating soon, so you need to give me some space. Like, okay, I like what you're saying, but between the two of you, this doesn't feel good.
Yeah, he's a bad tsundere actor, for sure.
Yeah.
But I feel like some of this is still with the writing, too, because I feel like even if they had good actors, the characters aren't even written to have a personality. Like, come on, name like 2 character traits of their personalities for either of them. You can't. They don't have anything. They're boring.
Like, the only thing I can think is that, like, Barr is always angry.
And
he doesn't like being called beautiful, or, well, not beautiful, but he doesn't like being called small or white. And then Gunn is always smiling, and he has an obsessive nature because he's literally been following Barr around since they were in the 9th grade.
Yeah.
So if timelines work in Thailand the way they work in the United States, that means for at least 5 years, he has been following Barr around hoping to get close to him. Ew, which is pretty fucking gross.
Yeah.
Okay, so people might not know this if they're just casually watching Tossara, but the actor who plays Dr. Gunn is not the original actor that was casted for this drama. And whoever wrote this said, I'm not going to adjust anything for the fact that we've casted a different actor. We're going to keep it the way it is. At the end of episode 4, when Barr's friends come to his apartment and no doors are locked, one of them is like, are you that skinny kid from high school? You're huge and buff now. And it's just like, are we all looking at the same person?
We're not looking at the same person. And it's not like we're trying to call him like fat or ugly. Like, he's skinny for sure. He's definitely a fit guy, but he's not muscly.
No.
Like, he's got hips. Like, you wouldn't be like, dude, that guy snatched. Like, he has muscles. You'd be like, oh, he looks good. He's fit, you know. But muscles, no.
No. There's a section in episode 2 where somebody calls him the university's hot daddy. Daddy? For real?
Yeah, no.
There's no daddy vibes there. None at all.
I mean, I guess he's tall. That's
really?
It. Oh man, I can't believe he was a medical student and they never played into like the trope of like Barr getting injured. And then him having to be like, oh, I'll take care of that. I'll bandage your boo-boo for you. You know? Like, we needed that. I needed some bad dramatic scene where someone gets hit by a car or falls off a bike or gets a paper cut, because in Boys Love, if you get any injury, you're in the hospital. Any
Yeah.
injury, they rush you to the hospital in these shows. So, I mean, heck, I think even in Love by Chance, the meet cute was that he like knocks over Pete with his bike or something.
I think he was in the street and a car was coming, and I think he backed up to get away from the car, and that's how he hit Pete on the bike. Or maybe,
Yeah, but they
yeah,
like
something like that.
they went to
It was
like
an accident.
the hospital, and it was like, is this the hospital worthy moment in your life? Maybe not.
Yeah, that would have been good. That would have been good. Well, I also find it weird, and maybe it's because I'm used to Western media that kind of
Mhm.
tells you the exposition up front and then the rest of the story goes through. All the exposition was backloaded. Like the whole exposition about how they met and how long he's been wanting to date Bar, that all came out at the Freshie competition. And
Yeah,
then the whole thing about like, I remember him because in ninth grade, he helped me out with a project or whatever. That all happened at the very last segment of episode 4. So
right.
is that normal to have all the exposition at the very end?
No, that's just bad writing. It just shows that they didn't think about like giving the characters any motivation. Because like, I mean, I feel like boys' loves don't totally give a lot of motivation for their characters, but like usually you're supposed to give like, what does the character want? What is the want of even in like every individual scene, my directors always say, what is the want of the character? What do they want in this moment? And I just feel like we're never really told that in this show. Because again, it's all told us at the end, the backstory. And you're like, wait a sec. Why are we getting plot development at part 4? Or like emotional development? Like, I don't care about these characters yet. So,
Yeah. Like I spent a lot of time watching this show and trying to figure out like why does Gunn want Bar and why would Bar want Gunn? And
right.
even when Bar gets like a little bit jealous at the bar, why are you jealous? Because you have like the angriest face on. You look like you don't like this guy. So why would you be jealous if somebody else was getting his attention? It was just, it was weird.
That episode bothered me because that it was like I want to say it was part 2. It was like all in the same part. The first half of that part was they're at the swim meet and Bar gets jealous of Gunn for no reason. He's joshing around with his friend, and then he's like, you're really friendly with your friend. And it's like, yeah, they're fucking friends, Bar. Get over it. And then we have a double beat, which is, again, bad writing. You don't want double beats, which is just like they literally replay the same scene, but with the roles reversed. Bar or Gunn gets mad at Bar. And it's like, why did we do this? Did we do
Yes.
both of these? Do I know more about these people? I don't. I don't care.
Speaking of people I wanted to get to know more about, I wanted to know more about Mark. Even though Mark had very few moments in Of Love Tossara, he's
Mhm.
the main character for Mechanics. And when Mark is like, I like you, this guy likes you, what's the difference? I remember thinking in that moment, yeah, what's the fucking difference? Mark Mark seems like he has a personality as opposed to Gunn. Go
Yeah.
for Mark. You know, and like they didn't give enough for us to understand why Bar would choose Gunn over Mark, because the whole show up until that point was all about the fact that Gunn has been relentlessly pursuing Bar.
Uh-huh.
But Mark, you know, he kind of pulled the same thing in terms of like, let me get you a drink, let me fill up your plate, let me do all this stuff while we're all together.
Mhm.
Also, Mark and Bar have something in common. They're both engineering students.
Right.
So, like, at that moment, I felt like Mark. I'm like, yeah, what is the damn difference? It's two guys who want you, but I at least have engineering in common with you.
Right.
This guy looks like he can't even spell School of Medicine.
Honestly, what do they talk about? Like, what would these two characters, what would Gunn and Bar talk about?
I have no idea. The weather,
I
food.
I would love to be a fly on the wall in a day in the life of Gunn and Bar living together because I have got to know.
Maybe that's what the draw is. You know, sometimes you see couples and you're like, y'all are perfectly made for each other. And in an odd way, I feel like Gunn and Bar are perfectly made for each other because they both are personalityless.
Yeah, they can be
And
bland together.
yeah, you know, somebody has got to breed Walmart employees. So, I mean, if it's them, then that's what it is.
hmm
Yeah, but I'm just like, I don't understand what the connection is here. I
Right.
still don't get it. When we get to the first episode of Love Mechanics, I still don't get it.
Right.
But
I haven't even watched Love Mechanics because I was like, I don't know if I want to get into this one.
oh,
Tossara.
we will get into Love Mechanics. We will review Love Mechanics because it's
Okay.
4 episodes and like episode 2 is airing today. So like in another 3 weeks, we will talk about Love Mechanics because it's really
Okay.
easy to digest. But yeah, like I still don't get it. But I want to talk a little bit about Studio Wabi Sabi because when I was telling you that I noticed that they didn't have any advertising for this show on Facebook, I
Mm-hmm.
think I know what the issue is. So, Love by Chance and Until We Meet Again are the flagship series on Studio Wabi Sabi. And both
Mm-hmm.
of those series are headed up by New, who is both the director and the producer for Studio Wabi Sabi.
Oh, okay.
These shows, Engineering of Love, none of them are directed by New. And so, like how you were saying, the lighting looks shitty, the plot doesn't look like it's well written, and you're surprised that this is a Studio Wabi Sabi production. I think this is indicative of how Studio Wabi Sabi is really only interested in promoting things that are headed by New.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, because like the quality is shit. The actors look like they were pulled off the street. There's only one actor in all of the show that looked familiar to me, and it is the character T, which is the long-haired lady boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he looked familiar, and I was trying to figure out where, and he was one of the lady boys from Love by Chance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I recognized him. But normally, if you look across like Love by Chance and Until We Meet Again, and even going back to Make It Right, which New directed before they started Studio Wabi Sabi,
Right.
there's a lot of actors in common.
Mm-hmm.
There's no actors in common in this show.
Yeah.
Everybody's brand new.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me feel like this is kind of a experiment by Studio Wabi Sabi, which is why it comes across so cheap, to see, can we make this a real studio? Can we make it to where we have different directors and different actors and do different things?
Yeah.
And I think in them experimenting, they didn't want to take the chance in investing too much money or time into it. And the series is suffering because of their kind of like half in, half out motivations for doing this.
Right. Like I think another reason why I think that also explains why it's 3 couples across 4 episodes each is because they're testing out, well, what if we try this pairing and this pairing with these actors just to see like what fans are going to respond to and be like, oh, we'd love to see, you know, Gunn and Bar, I forget the actors' names, in another show together, maybe as different characters, you know? It's weird.
It
It
is.
feels like I don't know why they spent, it just seems like a waste of money. It just seems like they burnt the money on this project. They had some change left over after starting Love by Chance season 2, and they were like, well, I guess we'll make this.
Well, it doesn't even show that they had any money. I mean, let's think about the sets very clearly. The swimming pool, the benches in the cafeteria,
Mm-hmm.
one of the apartments, and a bar. That's
Yeah.
it. There's only 4 sets. Oh, and a classroom. There's a
Yeah.
classroom scene. Those are the only 5 sets. And those sets aren't sets that are expensive to light. They're not sets that cost a lot of money to rent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're pretty low cost, low impact settings.
Right.
So it feels like there was no money put in. Even like the clothing, there were very few scenes where they were not in their school clothing in the show.
Right.
So, I mean, it just feels like they did not take the time to really try to make something of this. It really does feel like it's a pilot or a test to see if the director's going to work out for the studio or to see if these actors are going to be useful later on.
Mm-hmm.
But it really doesn't feel like they were looking at End of Love to be a flagship addition to the Studio Wabi Sabi legacy.
Right. Which is a dumb move. Like, if you're gonna test something out, you have to give it a good, wholehearted go. It feels like they put in 10% of effort instead of 100%. And if it failed, but at least they gave it a go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, even if they were to make a full, like, new directed show with some of these actors or couples from Tossara, as of right now, after just watching those 4 episodes, I would have no interest in that show.
Absolutely, because you don't even want to watch Love Mechanics.
That's how
poorly it did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I want the best for a couple of the actors, namely the one I just named, T, who plays the longer-haired lady boy. I
Yeah.
really liked his acting. I think of
Yeah.
all the people that were side characters, he and the guy that played Lee, who was the other one with the shorter hair,
Uh-huh.
they stood out the most in terms of like people who knew the material before the film started rolling and were
Uh-huh.
ready to go.
Yeah. They were
Yeah.
professional. They had personality. They came across well on screen. You know, it was something.
Yeah. Like I was watching and I'm like, I want to know more about those two.
Yeah.
Let me follow them and see what their life is like. But
Yeah.
I want the best for them. I feel like Fluke, if he could just get in a pairing where he had somebody that had a little bit more experience, it would have elevated his acting. Because that's the other thing with actors is that a lot of times they play off each other. There's a lot of stuff that
Mhm.
happens when you're reading lines and rehearsing where
Mhm.
you feed off of each other's energy, you learn how to interact.
Right.
And with Gunn being such a fucking wet blanket,
Oh
I
yeah.
don't think it gave any room for Barr to kind of elevate his personality on screen. So he just came
Agreed.
across as like a straight up stereotypical Sundry.
Yeah. Man, even Meryl Streep would have struggled in a scene with Gunn. She'd be like, Lord, I don't have time for this.
So yeah, I think that, I feel like definitely Folk needs another show. I did look up his name. He's the only one whose name I looked up. His name
he's,
is
the,
Folk.
he's the only one I followed on Instagram.
His name is Folk, and I feel like he's got some potential there. I
Mhm.
think he just needs to be paired with somebody who could help him out. Maybe spend some time as a side character in another show. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
He needs to be the B or C couple on a show before he gets another solo, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, it's just very obvious that like they were pulling people out of street auditions. Like, you look decent, I'll take you. And like, if
Yeah.
you look at the page for the actor who played Gunn, it's all modeling content on his Instagram.
Hmm. Oh, he
So,
takes a good photo, but he can't act.
oh yeah, oh my gosh, I looking at the promo pics for Tossara,
Uh-huh.
when you finally see him on screen, you're like, that cannot be the same person.
You're like, damn. Yeah, no, I was looking at his Instagram and I was like, he takes a mean photo. Tyra would be impressed. But yeah, it doesn't come across on camera.
No, not at all. But that just goes to show not every attractive person is an actor.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I will say,
Okay.
I want to talk about the pacing of the show because I still think that was really weird. Because I was
Hmm.
rewatching the first episode this morning because I keep finding it super weird. Because so, after Gunn is like, I'm gonna hit on you, Bar's like, okay, fuck it, whatever. The very next scene, um, Gunn goes to hit on Bar, not even hit on Bar, he just sits next to him with his friends. And then Gunn's like, fine, you can come to dinner with us. And then it cuts to another scene, like the next day, like breakfast the next morning, and we're with Gunn's friends. And Gunn's friends are like, what are you doing here, Bar? And Bar's like, oh, I'm just dropping off Gunn. It's like, what? I thought you didn't like being with him. Why are you hanging out with him voluntarily? Why do you pick up his phone call the second fucking ring every time in episode 2? I am confused.
Yeah. Like there's a lot going on
Mm-hmm.
off screen or like in Neverland Scriptland that
Mm-hmm.
never comes into what we see on camera, and I think
Right.
that's one of the hazards of adapting these boys love novels. Now, I'm going to tell everybody, in case you're not aware, I used to write fan fiction. That doesn't mean that I was a script writer. I'm just saying it's the history. And there's a lot that you can do with a fan fiction or a written story that just never translates on screen. Like,
Mm-hmm.
monologuing people's feelings, their emotions, their flashbacks, their personal histories, all that can be written without them ever saying an actual dialoguing word. And
Right.
I feel like when they got this novel and they decided to put it on screen, they used all the dialogue, but they didn't spend any time on how to translate some of these unspoken emotions or some of this other stuff that
Mhm.
is maybe more valuable in terms of getting us from point A emotionally to point B.
Yeah.
And that also harmed this production because if they spent the night together, there were conversations all night long.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we had any kind of insight into what those overnight conversations were, we would understand the reason why they were together all night long and why he would bring him to the school.
Right. I mean, I would love just even like a small 1-minute scene where they're like, oh man, we both really love this one manga, and they're talking about the manga or something, just to like bond them together a little bit, you know?
Yeah, or even like the fact that they went to high school together, that's a conversation. Like, do you remember such and such used to teach economics? Or do you remember our history teacher? Or do you
Mm-hmm.
remember the one time that the principal had the big school gymnasium, whatever, and we all went
Right, right.
there?
Yeah,
Yeah, people we went to school with. Like, those are the kinds of things that build relationships, because
right.
a relationship really is not built on like big gestures. It's
Mm-hmm.
built on like the little things that come in between, and we don't get any of that with them. And
Right,
even after they've spent the night together, when they talk to each other after that night, they still kind of sound like strangers.
right.
So you don't see affection being built. You don't
Mm-mm.
see that like they are getting closer.
Not at all.
Yeah, except for that one declaration about I would rather be with him than be with you. That's
Right.
it. Oh, and the cheek kiss right before the freshie competition.
That was weird because he didn't even like kiss his cheek. He got like, he like nose pressed and then like walked away. And it was like,
Yeah.
can you not just kiss his cheek? He literally pressed his nose against his cheek and just like walked away.
I mean, I get it. You're straight, whatever. But like, you're being paid to act here.
Yeah,
Act.
this is, you're gay for pay, son.
And it's not like we're asking you to put it in your mouth. We're asking you to like kiss a cheek.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, definitely there's a lot wanting in this show. So I need to ask you,
Okay.
if somebody said, since you don't like it, you're gonna have to refilm it. Tell me how you would refilm it that would make it better. Even if it's only by 20%, what would you redo that would make this way better?
I think I would add those little moments that we talked about to build their relationship. Um, if I can, I would just find someone else to act, or at least try and direct him better. Be like, stop smiling, because I feel like the direct, like, you can sometimes get around like a bad actor with good directing. Like, if you ever watch a movie and you're like, wow, that child actor did a really good job, and they're only like 9 years old, it's a lot of times because the director is good at giving them feedback between takes to help them along each, like, to get better and give them the take that they need. I would just rewrite. I think I would repaste the entire show. It's not paced right. They kiss in episode 2, I want to say. He's like, be my boyfriend. He's like, no, but I'll make out with you. They give him like a kiss. I think that was weirdly timed. I would want more pushback from Bar in episodes 1 and 2. Have him be pushing back quite a bit in episode 1. Episode 2, he's like warming up to him. Episode 3, he's like, I might want that dick. And then episode 4, he's like, I want the dick.
Mm-hmm. If I was going to throw something in there to explain the reason why it doesn't seem that Bar is receptive to Gun in all of his advances, I
Mm-hmm.
would make it very clear, kind of towards the very first episode at the beginning, that
Mm-hmm.
Bar is autistic. And I would put him, I would put him on the spectrum. And this is not me insulting autistic people. I would put him on the spectrum because my uncle was actually autistic.
Mm-hmm.
I would put him on the spectrum and have it be that the reason why Gun is having a hard time being able to gauge whether or not Bar likes him back
Mm-hmm.
is because Bar emotionally isn't able to kind of express himself in that way. And so
Right.
that's why he doesn't push Gun away all the time, because he's like, I don't think I need to push him away. I don't think
Right.
he's being dangerous to me. But at the same time, I'm not ultra affectionate or anything else because I can't really process that emotion.
Right.
Then it would make sense that Gunn would be so frustrated trying to hit on and date Bar because Bar's not giving him the signals that you'd normally get from somebody when you're
Right.
trying to pursue them in a romantic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
and then it would make Bar's acting make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would do that, or I would like absolutely recast Gunn. I would absolutely recast Gunn. I would find anyone in the world. Actually, you know who I think would be really good to play the part of Gunn? Cooper, who plays the lead in My Engineer.
Yeah, but I just think
Like,
Cooper's a good actor.
yeah, we love him. We love him. But
Cooper.
like his kind of overconfident,
Mm-hmm.
super extrovert, kind of challenging demeanor would
Right.
work really well with a character like Bar, who's like kind of on the fence, because it seems
Mm-hmm.
like he would push his buttons to get him there.
Uh-huh.
Whereas Gunn does not. He's just kind of like, I brought you a cake. Do you like me
Yeah.
now?
He's really trying to buy that affection.
Oh, he's always got a fucking shopping bag in his hand. Every
Mm-hmm.
time we see him on a new scene, he's like, I brought you something. I heard
Uh-huh.
you were teaching today. I brought you something. Oh man. Okay, so I think we have beat Tossara to death because I can't think of anything else to add on to this conversation. But I know we were debating whether or not we were going to talk about some other series. So I think maybe now's a good time for us to talk about what series would probably be a good one for us to challenge next week. That way people can watch along with us and they can be a part of the comment section next week.
Mm. Um, well, Why Are You ends next week. I think that's the perfect one. Why Are You ends next Friday.
Yes. Okay. So we will talk about Larry. Oh no, I'm just saying yes because like I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm not going to talk about them now. But yeah, we absolutely need to talk about Why Are You. We need to talk about production issues. We need to talk about storylines. We need to talk about acting. Like there's a lot that we need to discuss about Why Are You. So
Mhm.
I think that would be perfect for us to talk about next week, and
Yeah.
then we'll decide about the week after. The week after.
Yeah.
Okay, so I told you and I told other people on my channel that I was going to give you guys the Instagram of the day to follow. So every time we do this, I'm going to give people an Instagram account that they need to check out because
Mhm.
the best part about Boys Love is following the actors on Instagram. The absolute best.
Every time on Instagram, I'll be like liking the post and it'll be like liked by Shaw360. And I'm like, girl, same. Girl, same. Swipe it and double tap.
So my pick for boys you should follow on Instagram today is Perth_SS. Perth_SS plays Rom in My Engineer. His character has a neck tattoo, which is fake, because I've seen some pictures of Rom throughout his early Instagram, and he doesn't have any tattoos, at least visible. But I pick him because Mason will tell you, I don't like Instagrams that are super like promotional. Like if somebody has a bunch of ads and modeling pictures on their Instagram, it's not for me. Perth, you really do get a sense of his personality on his Instagram.
He's a nerd. He is a
He
nerd.
is such a weebo. It's so good.
He always posts like the manga he's reading, and I'm like, girl, same. Let's talk about it.
But yeah, he's really super normal.
Mhm.
He loves manga. He reads all kinds too. Like he even was reading Boys Love before he announced that he was cast to do My Engineer.
Mhm.
But he's just like a really normal, goofy kid. And
Mhm.
so I definitely recommend following him because he's a good time. And I always look forward to whenever he decides to post.
Mhm.
Also, him and the guy that plays King, they did some kind of like dancing TikTok thing. I don't know what it was. The world's worst dancers. Both of them are
Oh,
terrible dancers. Most people in Boys Love are awful dancers, but these two take the cake as the worst dancers in Boys Love.
it was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad.
But it was like so bad that it was good because they were so funny because you could tell that they both realized we can't dance.
Yeah, they're like, we have no rhythm.
So at some point you could see them just dissolve into like, let's
Mhm.
just run around each other and then
Right.
pose. But
Mhm.
yeah, I definitely recommend following Perth_SS because he's a sweetie. I love him and I want more people to follow him. His following is decent right now, but it could definitely be more.
Mhm.
Definitely be more.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that is the best conclusion for this episode.
Mhm.
will be named in post. But yeah.
Yeah, we came up with like 3 different names and we haven't picked one yet.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, we thought about naming it after our group chat that we have with Rosario and Andrea and Jeannie and Alex. But I don't know. Our group chat has a long name, so I'm not sure if that's the best idea.
It's long, but I do think it's like, that's cute.
Okay. So I think
I
we'll
don't
go
know.
with that then.
We'll
That'd
think
probably be
about
good.
it, but it's a cute title, so I like it.
Yes. And I don't know if Mason's going to do any editing on this before it gets posted, but if
Nope.
he does.
Nope. I don't know how to edit. I don't have editing software, so sorry, Sam. We are in some raw footage for this game.
Listen, my whole channel is raw footage.
Oh, yeah.
I am not an editor. You know me. I am like, is this thing live? Let's go.
Yeah. Sam, every line.
You know what? It works.
It does.
It absolutely works. That is my theme song. My life. That's my theme song.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can't wait to talk about more Boys Love here, especially because there are some Boys Loves that I know that you and I have not watched that will make for really good conversations. Because one of the things that I know that personally I try to stay away from, and you do too, we do not talk about things with sad endings.
Oh, no. I refuse to watch any of the ones with sad endings except for that one that we're not going to name because history, you know.
Yes. But I feel like we are going to have to move there in order for us to have content every week. But yeah, when the time comes for us to talk about Red Wine has a sad ending. When it comes time to
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to address why I don't like watching the sad ones real quick, because I feel like if anyone does watch this, they might wonder why. So, as a gay person, there's not a lot of content out there. Like, I am constantly bombarded by heterosexual couples all the time. And when a lot of LGBTQ content does get made, especially in America, it's like, oh, you'd only get the sad endings. I mean, we had like Will and Grace, but then it'd be like, oh, it'd be, you know, boys don't cry and someone dies because they were murdered for being trans or murdered for being gay or they died of AIDS or like something just tragic. And it's like, why can't we just have a cute rom-com? Like, I'm so thankful Love, Simon exists, you know? So when I watch these boys' loves, I'm like, I just want the happy ones. I want what the straights have. I want the cute shit. Just give me the cute shit. That's all. So sometimes I just like get tired of like watching the really sad ones because it's like, why does it always have to be sad for the gay couples? It's a thing and I don't like it. So we'll get there when we get there, but that's my reason for not watching the sad stuff is can I just have like a happy straight couple or gay couple for once, please? Let the straight couple die. Let the straight couple die.
Well, when we get to Tale of a Thousand Stars, I think it's one half of the straight couple dies.
Good.
So that'll be interesting.
Good. Bye. Bye. I'm sorry to this man.
But yeah, I think that there's some stuff that we will need to watch that maybe doesn't have the happy ending, but they're important for people who kind of want to know more about the genre. For instance, I think it's called My Pornographer, which is a Japanese boys' love.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard really good things about it, so I look forward to talking about it if we do get there. And also, like, even though you said not to name it, I'm just going to name it History 3, Make Our Days Count. We've got to talk about that show. There's no way we can have a show about boys' love and not talk about that boys' love.
That'll be the longest episode because I feel like I could spend an hour just not even talking, raging at the final episode.
I could spend an hour talking about everything great about that cast and about the way that was scripted, shot, everything prior to the ending.
Oh yeah, it is still the best character introduction I've ever seen in a boys' love. You know, right away what Xiao Hao Ting is all about. Right away. Great. Oh, man, now I want to rewatch it, but only to episode 9.
You know, I agree. But yeah, I think that there's definitely a lot to talk about there. But I think that when we get ready to talk about that should be at the end cap of us doing the entire history series.
Right.
Because I know for you haven't watched all of them. And I think that if you watch them all and you watch them in order and we talk about them, then you'll understand why History 3 is even more of a tragedy than it actually is based on itself alone.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I can't wait to talk about that. But yeah, next week is Why Are You? And yeah, thank you for whoever's watching this, because I realize this is rough shot. I mean, you're basically kind of getting a bird's eye view of what our real conversations are like. But there's no one, at least as far as the people I follow, there's no one really talking about boys love in the way that we talk about it amongst ourselves.
Yeah, no, Sam and I mean, this is like the most on topic I think Sam and I have ever been talking about a boy's love. Because I clocked it, we talked for almost 6 hours last weekend. And it wasn't all about boys love. I mean, Sam and I are just good friends. We love each other. It was not what we talked about. We got to like Harry Potter and just like James Potter being a shithead and just like random shit. But this is like the on-topic version of one of our conversations. So yeah, we just doing this because we love boys love and we want to talk about it. That's literally it. We just like talking about it.
Yeah, and also just for me, I would like for other people to have the type of space that I'm looking for. When I was looking for reviews for Tossara, I couldn't find any that talked about it and what was wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
Not that every conversation we have about boys love is going to be what was wrong with that show. Like, that's not realistic. But like, people that are really looking at these shows and talking about them in a real way, I don't feel like there's enough people doing that. Everybody is so caught up in the skinship and the cute moments and he's so cute, this, that, the other. And like, there's more to it. Like, there's some real problematic shit. Like, I'm anxious about the day we talk about Tharn type for real.
Yeah, there's some big elephants in the room in Tharn type for sure.
Yeah. So that's
and
why
Love
I said,
by
like,
Chance. There's a big one there too.
Man, Love by Chance could be a series of itself talking about
Episode 1, the break.
So yeah, I hope that this provides kind of a different outlook on things for some people who are looking for like that real talk, because I'm looking for it, and I'd love to meet more people who are invested and want to have these real conversations also.
Right. But yeah, if anyone's watching this, let us know what you think of Tossara down below.
Yes, comment, please. Because we're doing this on Zoom, so, you know, depending on how good your comment is, you might be asked to be in on the conversation one day. Who knows?
Yeah, we'd love to have guests.
Yes.
Guests. That sounds like we're like some official, like, big hotshot show.
Okay, so question. If you could have anyone from any boys love show be a guest to have a conversation with, who would it be?
I'm just going to assume that there's like a translator or something so we can actually talk. That's a really good question. I feel like my first thought was Syncto.
Me too!
Because Sodus. But also he's done more boys love out of the two than Artit has. So I would love to be like, so what was it like working with Ohm? And he's coming to me. Like, I just want to know. What about Friend Zone? I just want to know. He also just seems like a good person, and I would love to be his friend.
So I agree, but since I have to pick somebody different, my second choice would be Max from Max Tull. He was in Together With Me. I really want to interview Max. One, because Max is one of those actors that is kind of straddling that line between doing boys love / gay content and doing straight content, because he also is in a show called, I think, Bangkok Okay. Or is Bangkok Stories. And in that show, it's got a gay storyline, but it's not a boys love show at all. It just has a gay storyline. And so I'd like to talk to him kind of about, you know, how do you address people who are like, this is boys love and then this is straight, and do you think it's possible to kind of I don't want to say transfer out of, but kind of like have a career where you can do all things and not be tagged as this kind of actor? Because I don't think that people tag him as that kind of actor. So I'd love to have a conversation about that. I'd love to have a conversation about him and Tull and their friendship and why it works. I would love to kind of poke in his mind and kind of see where things are, because out of all the boys love actors, he and Tull, I feel like, exemplify what I would like to see off screen for people.
They're allies.
Yeah, they're allies. And so that's the reason why I would like to know more kind of like their approach to this
Mhm.
and what they think the genre has done for them, maybe things that they'd like to see different in the genre, and what their future, what they see in their future.
Yeah. I would love to interview either Perth or Mean from Love by Chance, just so I could look him in the eye and be like, say what you said online, but to my face. Because
And I'd love to interview New Year.
yeah.
I would love to interview New Year because I
Bring his
feel like
boyfriend, bring them both.
because if New Year was to interview with us and
Mm-hmm.
he was willing to be completely honest,
Mm-hmm.
I'd want to ask him what happened with him and Two Moons, which when we review Two Moons, we'll talk about that. But also, like, does he see himself having a place in boys' love today, or does he think that his opportunity has gone?
Right.
Because, I mean, if you look at him just based off of looks, he is perfect for boys' love.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, he looks
just,
like a flower boy.
yeah, he's perfect. But he's not being cast. And there's got to be a reason.
Yeah.
And I've said what I think my reasons are, and we'll talk about that when we get to Two Moons. But I'd like to hear from him, like, are you actively pursuing roles in boys' love? Is anyone approaching you to do any of these roles? Do
Right.
you think you've been blacklisted in the community?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, as a man living in Thailand, has boys' love made people look at you differently? Has it
Mm-hmm.
given more acceptance to you as a gay man in Thailand? Or do you feel like people so much say that that's fiction and that's a
Mm-hmm.
niche that it hasn't made anything better for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
He'd be cool.
I think it'd be awesome. It'd be
Yeah.
amazing. All right, well, I guess we better wrap it up before this is like 1,000 hours.
Because we'd keep going for sure.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean,
We
that
took a
doesn't mean you
lunch
and
like
me.
and.
Well, I mean, it doesn't mean you and I have to stop talking. It just means
That's
that,
true. Yeah.
yeah, this is over while we do a little bit more game planning. But
Mm-hmm.
thank you for,
Thank you for watching.
yes.
Whoever did. It can't get 0 views. We have friends.
You know what? Akata's gonna watch. So, I mean, somebody's gonna watch.
Somebody. All right,
Yeah.
but thank you so much. We hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.